Baby, be in love with your fantasies. I can be a star, make a side so bright. Welcome to my dungeon, this is ecstasy. Let me play the fantasy.
What's good, YouTube? It's your girl, Asia.
And it's your boy, BJ. And we back like we never left. We appreciate y'all for tuning in, hitting that thumbnail, most importantly, supporting the channel. Let me just slide over, make sure a brother is in the camera. Make sure I'm in the camera.
There we go.
Oh, we good. But yeah, I definitely want to check this video out. This is going to be really, really good. This is going to be very, very informative for us and all our viewers. I want to check out this video with Harry Anslinger in regards to the prohibition on cannabis.
Oh.
Because he's actually the person that pretty much spearheaded in regards to the prohibition on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
and I kind of want to divulge a little bit, but I kind of want to let the video play first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all I'm gonna say is, like, I feel like, you know, it just off the cusp. Okay. It's not what it used to be, like, put into our heads, what people used to say, like what they taught us.
Yeah, back then it was so taboo.
Yeah.
But the title of this one is "The Man Responsible for Marijuana's Prohibition."
Okay.
Let's check it out.
The blame for the war on drugs can be laid on many doorsteps, but the man most directly responsible for the federal ban on cannabis and the ferocious criminalization of marijuana possession is one Harry J. Anslinger. Anslinger was the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics from 1930 to 1962, and during that time he concocted a strategy built on hypocrisy, racism, and sensationalist fear-mongering to demonize cannabis that resulted in the marijuana tax of 1937 and nearly 100 years of prejudice against pot smokers.
Wow.
But before we do that, be sure you subscribe to the Weird History channel and leave a comment below. All right. Anslinger had been a longtime proponent of banning alcohol before he became the commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics in 1930, because he had apparently dedicated his life to preventing people from having any fun. However, in those early years, Anslinger believed alcohol to be far more harmful than cannabis, even going so far as to say that the idea that marijuana caused violent behavior to be an absurd fallacy. Remember that absurd fallacy line. It's going to be important later. Anslinger got his wish, and alcohol was prohibited in America for 13 years. But since his job focused so much on fighting alcohol, when Prohibition ended in 1933, his job was suddenly in jeopardy. He needed to target a new, dangerous substance quickly to justify his paycheck, and he set his sights on cannabis.
Wow.
At that point in the 1930s, it was well known that hard drugs like cocaine and heroin were much more dangerous than marijuana, so consequently, marijuana use was much more common. Anslinger targeted pot for this exact reason, figuring that launching a crusade against a popular drug would create a never-ending budget for his Federal Bureau of Narcotics. That's essentially the same as making people pay a higher fine for jaywalking than drunk driving because more people jaywalk, which is the exact opposite of how laws are supposed to work. Anslinger's strategy was so successful that he was able to remain head of the Bureau for 3 decades, retiring in 1962, just before Bob Dylan and the Beatles showed up to really make his life difficult. Remember how we mentioned Anslinger denounced reports of marijuana causing violent behavior as being the very height of absurdity? Well, as soon as he targeted cannabis to be the infinite cash machine for the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, he sought out those very same reports in order to justify his crusade. Anslinger kept gore files filled with violent crimes he thought he could link to the use of cannabis, including one woman who committed suicide by jumping from an apartment balcony and a boy who murdered his entire family with an axe. Marijuana has never been scientifically linked to violent behavior, so the two incidents could have just as easily been blamed on whatever the people in question ate for dinner. Well, meatloaf always makes me ornery. Or, more likely, them having a mental illness. Seems like maybe a department dedicated to the research and treatment of mental illness would be more helpful than throwing people in jail for smoking pot. But, Harry, you do you.
Yeah, just from right here, it's already sounding kind of hairy right now in regards to, like, well, his name is Harry, but this whole situation in regards to, like, pot and marijuana, it's already sounding kind of hairy, knowing that, like, prohibition already had ended, and now he's trying to figure out another way. Kind of like in regards to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, like to continue something, to continue going after something else.
Well, yeah, he needed to keep his job.
Right.
And that's so crazy because I feel like everything that he's talking about, like in terms of like how bad it was and how it was put into people's heads about how horrible of a drug it was, even just listening to this all the way, he said 30 years he was in office, like making all these changes and staying on top of it. Like you can imagine like the amount of people who also had that instilled and ingrained in them about the same thing, especially kids at that time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, like, this is crazy, though. Watching this. Wow. Interesting to know, though. I never knew that there was a person that just was like,
Yes.
no.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Do you. Trumped up stories about reefer madness aside, Anslinger was looking for scientific evidence to support his case for a cannabis ban. He contacted 30 different doctors and asked for their medical opinion. Of those 30, 29 said that there was no link between marijuana and violent crimes. You can probably guess what happened next. Anslinger heroically ignored every single medical testimony except the one dissenting opinion that supported his case, highlighting the most extreme claims. He later stated that anyone who challenged this viewpoint was treading on dangerous ground. What a buzzkill.
Wow.
Anslinger wasn't leading the charge against cannabis by himself. Infamous publishing magnate, friend of the show, and possible war criminal William Randolph Hearst lent Anslinger's crusade a great deal of support, primarily to protect his interest in the timber industry. Hearst was pro-Rosebud, but not pro-Bud. He was afraid that hemp paper, which is made from cannabis, would compete with his paper products and take a cut out of his profits. As you might remember from previous episodes of Weird History, Hearst was not a man who valued competition. Hearst wasn't the only one worried that consumers would start writing their crunchy grooves out on hemp paper. The DuPont Corporation also supported Anslinger, fearing that hemp products would overtake their investment in nylon.
That's important to know because...
Nylon?
Right, in regards to like the nylon and then also like the paper as well, because now that they do have those products, look what kind of look what the market is taking over in regards to that now.
What?
The hemp.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm like...
As big as it is now, just think about if they were like using it then and continue to keep using it for, whatever like reasons that they wanted to use it for.
Okay.
In regards to the hemp. So that's pretty big too in regards to just the use of the hemp.
How okay, so that is there a way to make something out of nylon with hemp?
I'm just wondering what would have how hemp is, threatening nylon. I don't know. It's just in regards to like product or whatever.
Okay.
Have you ever wondered why the official name of cannabis is marijuana? Yeah, I have. Well, Anslinger is behind that too. He helped popularize the term because he believed it would associate the drug with Mexican immigrants. This nakedly racist strategy played on the xenophobia people were feeling about the southern border. It was one of the many ways Anslinger used prejudice to frame cannabis as an invading force out to corrupt white America, and it worked like a charm. Anslinger was clearly not afraid to use racism to advance his campaign against marijuana, so you probably won't be too surprised to learn that he falsely branded cannabis use as an African-American problem. 1930s America was only too happy to agree with him and his virulent...
I want you to keep paying attention to this. We're starting to get into the thick of it now.
Yeah.
We're getting into the thick of it.
An American problem. 1930s America was only too happy to agree with him, and his virulently racist rhetoric became one of the most effective tools in his arsenal. Anslinger claimed that
African Americans made up only 10% of the population, but 60% of the addicts.
Stating that
Reefer makes darkies think that they're as good as white men.
Keep in mind, this was coming from the head of a government public health organization, so his words did as much damage as possible. Anslinger's racism pockets were pretty deep, and he wasn't afraid to empty them out in his quest to brand marijuana as a threat to society. Another one of his repulsive strategies was to appeal to irrational racist fears that cannabis use would tempt white women into having sex with people of color. Anslinger claimed that most cannabis users were
Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers
who played
satanic music.
This was considered a legitimate public health crisis in the 1930s. Yeah, so that happened.
What? It's like this guy.
Marijuana was partly fueled by his hatred of jazz music.
I'm starting to really feel like, in regards to what they said at the beginning, that he's just against anything productive, having fun, leisure moments. Like, he's against jazz. He's against the marijuana.
Boy, I would hate to be his kid.
Sounds like he's against black people.
Nothing.
Obviously, he's against the alcohol.
Nothing. Okay, straight up, straight narrow. Okay?
He's looking for a way to find anything to
literally.
Try to, and it's really
what a square.
Right, and it's really odd too, just in regards to like all these things that he's trying to build up, like this propaganda. Because I've always heard this too over a period of time in regards to Anslinger, just in regards to him creating this false narrative in regards to. Just in regards to a false narrative about marijuana, like creating all these false stereotypes about only black people use it, and when they use it, they get violent, or it causes people to be violent. Period. You know, just to build up, his case to ban it.
Yeah.
In addition to greed and racism, another motivator behind Anslinger's campaign to ban marijuana seems to have been his hatred of jazz music. While most crotchety old men would be content to just make fun of it and just listen to the smooth sounds of their teeth grinding, Anslinger took it upon himself to try and eradicate jazz entirely. He's like a villain from Footloose. Anslinger unironically believed that weed gave jazz musicians actual superpowers, arguing that smoking pot allowed them to play
at a furious speed impossible for one in a normal state.
Sorry, Harry, that's cocaine. I'm looking at you, Clapton. He routinely used his power and position to harass jazz musicians, even going as far as trying to coordinate multiple law enforcement agencies to arrest all musicians in violation of the marijuana laws on a single day. A plan that luckily never materialized. Thank Coltrane. Anslinger relied on extreme hyperbolic language to push his agenda, and his rhetoric only intensified as he got older. He once said,
"No one knows when he places a marijuana cigarette to his lips whether he will become a joyous reveler in a musical heaven, a mad insensate, a calm philosopher, or a murderer."
Imagine partying with this guy. Hey, could we get Killjoy a fatty over here? Some of his other greatest hits include suggesting that marijuana would scare Frankenstein's monster to death, that if you smoke pot, you'd likely end up murdering your brother, and that
marijuana is the most violence-causing drug in the history of mankind.
A claim supported by exactly zero scientific evidence. Most of the myths you've heard about marijuana can be traced directly back to Anslinger, so in a way, he's history's most successful hype man. Anslinger's role in creating the war on drugs is pretty clear, but he can also be credited with helping to create the prison industrial complex. Anslinger's goal to jail people for possession-related convictions has led to the incarceration and exploitation of hundreds of thousands of people, in particular African Americans, a subject recently explored in the documentaries 13th and The House I Live In. Anslinger believed that drug addicts, including people who smoke pot, were beyond pity or treatment, stating that
doctors cannot treat drug addicts even if they wish to.
He claimed that the only way to keep people safe was to
throw killer pushers into prison and throw away the key.
Really, we should give smokers a Netflix subscription. Anslinger's racist campaign against marijuana and jazz music collided in a single-minded persecution of jazz legend singer Billie Holiday. Holiday struggled for years against drug and alcohol addiction, and Anslinger hounded her every chance he could. In a truly ghoulish final act of pettiness and hatred, Anslinger had Holiday arrested for possession as she lay dying in a hospital of liver and heart disease. She died handcuffed to her hospital bed with her personal belongings confiscated and an armed police guard at her door. Before she died, Holiday said of Anslinger's crusade, "Imagine if the government chased sick people with diabetes, put a tax on insulin and drove it into the black market, told doctors they couldn't treat them, then sent them to jail. We do practically the same thing every day in a week to sick people hooked on drugs." The selective enforcement of Anslinger's anti-drug policies is best illustrated in how he treated white celebrities with drug problems. When he learned that the Wizard of Oz star Judy Garland was struggling with a heroin addiction, he gave her some friendly advice on self-care before assuring her movie studio employers that she didn't have a problem. He somehow managed to do this without handcuffing her to a hospital bed. When he learned of the impending drug arrest of a prominent Washington socialite, Anslinger intervened and squashed it, arguing that it would destroy the unblemished reputation of one of the nation's most honored honored families. Evidently, one of the symptoms of being a tyrannical bigot is completely losing your sense of irony. Harry J. Anslinger strangely might be one of the most influential men of the 20th century, manufacturing the public animosity towards marijuana almost single-handedly with a campaign of greed, fear-mongering, and racism that we're still feeling the effects of today.
The fact that people like had so much power and influence over people's minds like that to just get people to believe almost like so
what they want them
much
to
like
believe.
of things that just because you were who you were, you came up with this idea of radicalizing marijuana and how horrible it is, but it was only horrible for certain people, certain colors, and God knows what else. Like what you handcuffed a dying person to the bed because they like had an addiction to like. Somebody make it make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Nobody. If somebody try to make it make sense, we're gonna have a problem. But no, it doesn't make sense because again, just in regards to like looking at the history, and now you see why it was such a taboo thing, as we were growing up.
Well,
it was like it always was like a hush thing, like a shh, or it was more of a thing of if they did it, they're morally wrong. Something's wrong with them because they smoke marijuana.
It's so bad. It's so horrible. It's so awful.
But me, like just growing up, like seeing people like do alcohol and all kind of other drugs. Mm-hmm. People didn't like just naturally. I was like, well, all they're doing is smoking marijuana. Like I didn't see all the violence that you would see, like with people doing all these other types of drugs and things like that. Like you didn't see that, and it's just weird to see how he took something as simple as a plant that's grown naturally in nature and, like you said, radicalized it, and more than that, criminalized it. Something that's naturally given to us by the earth.
Yeah.
And not just that, but in regards to like the criminalization of it, also like adding marijuana along the lines as a classification with all the other drugs. That's what like criminalized it, because you put it up there with all the other serious drugs, and then you put a law on it saying if you get caught with this and this, then this is what's going to happen to you, when knowing that probably more people in the urban community are using it a lot more. So that was another reason to kind of go after the urban community a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then obviously if you see like the black actors or black music artists, jazz and things of that nature, he just going against jazz because it's probably predominantly black.
Right.
And so, and just again, just weaponizing it, what you have in the position that you have. I think I said he was part of the FBI. He wasn't part of the FBI. I think I said that wrong. But he was with,
he was
the
like
drug and alcohol
government officials.
Yeah.
He was part of
the head of the drug and alcohol division.
Somewhere
basically.
in there, yeah. He was part of something.
Yeah, so he has great influence in regards to, the criminalization of drugs.
But the fact that nobody ever like fact checked anything that he said, it was just like, the one doctor out of the 29
out of the 30,
or whatever, like, yeah, I'm going to go with what he said. Because he said what I said is right. So I'm going to go with what he said.
Right, because this one report is aligned with what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to take
crazy.
that. And then just think about over the past 80 years, how many people have been, been labeled a criminal for just using marijuana.
Still incarcerated
Cannabis.
For things that have some type of relation to
right.
that.
And see, another important thing.
But what's crazy though is out of all of that, like now the government has a hand in it, and now it's okay in certain places.
In certain places.
In certain places,
Yeah.
it's okay now. But like until they had a grip on it, a grasp on what was actually coming in, what they was actually making off of that. Yeah, it was good. It was all good.
Yeah, once they figured out that they could put a tax on it and they could make this much off of it, because I think marijuana is probably like the number one cash crop right now over everything. Corn,
I think so.
Wheat, things of that nature. And, just to kind of leave it at this, just in regards to him speaking about like the marijuana, it just blows my mind, just knowing that how many people have been like criminalized for it, because a lot of people have been criminalized in regards to like violent crimes. And now you're just seeing like reform now where people are just now getting let go for drug offenses that are like marijuana related, that are non-violent. So people are just now getting like reform for that now.
That's crazy.
Think about that.
Maybe a period of
20, 30, 40 years.
I was
where
gonna
people
say
have been,
40, but I'm like,
maybe longer than that.
maybe even longer than that.
Crimes that are non-violent, but they involve marijuana, and people have been getting like
That's so sad.
nailed to the cross for it, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was very, very informative in regards to just this particular video. I feel like a lot of our viewers, people that like to watch us, are going to get a lot out of this particular video.
Yeah. I'd be
just in
curious
regards
to
to
hear
the
y'all's
information.
insight on
Yeah,
it.
for real.
It's crazy because and probably in our generation, like our parents was just kind of coming out of that coming through that time period, like you know what I mean, the 50s, the 60s, even maybe even some
The taboo era.
Yeah, when it was like really a big bad thing at that time. Yeah. Like then here we come, And
now the roles have been reversed.
Right.
So it's like, what happened to all these other years? And it's so crazy because now they want you to forget about that because now it's a good thing. But no, hold on, we gotta wait. Like, what about 20, 30, 40, 50 years of people being somewhat oppressed, criminalized for it, things like that.
Heavily,
and more importantly, why they were. Yeah. So this video definitely opened my eyes.
So when did this guy pass away? Surely he's not still alive. So when did he die?
I mean, he wasn't with them. He retired in 62.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Like,
but this was super informative, and I feel like this is going to open up a lot of people's eyes in regards to like checking this video out and just understanding a little bit more in regards to like cannabis.
And 13 years they didn't have alcohol either.
Right. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, with the prohibition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, like I said, I feel like alcohol is way more dangerous than marijuana.
Absolutely.
So, and it kills way more people. So, hey, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So, y'all chime in. Let us know what y'all think about this down. Ooh, I know y'all
hey,
got some comments
go
for
ahead.
this.
Bust those comments open, man. Feel free to comment. Let us know what y'all feel like.
Yeah. But if y'all enjoyed this, be sure you give us a big thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe, smash the notification bell, join this family. And if ain't nobody else told you, I love you. And we're going to see y'all in the next video, y'all.
Y'all take it easy.
Yeah. Bye.